Hi guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade as we finally dive into the new tier 4 unit, the Crescent Monks, or as their elite version is called, the Brawling Brethren. That's quite a bit of a mouthful. Anyway, I'm going to say it, quite an interesting unit. And actually, I've genuinely been quite enjoying them. They seem actually really quite a good unit for their tier. So let's dive into a little bit of what they're like, abilities, veterancy lines, etc. All that sort of usual stuff. So they're only a 9-man unit. I guess their closest comparison, I would say, in playstyle is probably something like the Berserkers. Now they don't have a building up rage to get the Berserk ability, but they do have this kind of elements of CC immunity, a little bit of healing being introduced through doctrines. They're not particularly tanky as a unit, but they do have a big HP pool, and they do sort of a large amount of area effect damage. So in that sense, they do kind of have similar playstyles. So what abilities do they have? And then we can kind of go through some of the stats. So they basically have 2 abilities. One which can run almost forever, which is called their Deadly Epicycle, or Epsicle? We'll go with Epicycle. They basically spin their blades around their head, and it basically does a big amount of AoE damage. They say inflicting damage in order to stop. Essentially, it runs for 5 seconds, after which they slam them down. But the ability only has a 5-second cooldown, so essentially you can infinitely activate this cycle. Now, secondly, you have something called Crescent Moon. This is, I kind of think of it as an ending ability. I wouldn't really use it outside of Deadly Epicycle being activated. When you do it, they basically slam their jump and slam, doing like an overhead slam. It knocks enemies flying. Quite damaging if you sort of manage to launch it into a big clump. It's on a sort of a 12 or 13 second cooldown, so you can get about 1 of these for every 2 or 3 Deadly Epicycle sort of runs. So that does quite a lot of damage because it's all about AoE damage. There's 9 of them all spinning their blades. It hits multiple units at once, and they have really high base damage. Now, we'll kind of go on and talk about doctrines a little bit in a minute, but they have this base 1700 slashing AP, which is really good. I kind of always think of 1600 as kind of the base level you really want to be getting to, and over above that, it pretty much does full damage to everything. So they're hitting for 2100, and this is where I've been really focusing on trying to up this number, because for me, this unit is just all about damage. They get some CC immunity, they get a little bit of healing, but they're not particularly defensive. They've got a big hit point pool, just rely on that. Everything else, it's all about the damage. And so that's what's reflected in the veterancy line choices. So essentially you've got the top line, which is what I've gone for, which is mostly about damage and mostly focused towards the Epicycle ability, which for me is the main damaging ability. Do we get things like percentage damage increase to that? There's also things like slashing AP increase to 15%, that's quite nice to have. We also get, piercing defense not useful, but movement speed, the extra 9% slashing damage. And finally, basically if their health falls below 25%, they basically get CC removal, health will be recovered. So they basically get this sort of second life. Again, a little bit like Berserkers, when you activate that Berserk ability, you get that instant health boost, and they sort of go a bit crazy. CC immunity performs a much similar sort of type of ability. And finally, you've managed to get an extra little 9% slashing damage down here as well, and a little bit of extra damage to Crescent Moon. So yeah, for me, top line is the way to go. So doctrines then. Obviously, I'm quite lucky at this point. I've been playing Conqueror's Blade for well over 3 years. I've got a lot of good doctrines that I can make use of, so it does help me out. I am running the doctrine that you're going to be getting from the seasonal challenges. Quite nice. Gives them a little bit of health restore on the first hit of Deadly Epicycle. Considering that's on a 5-second cooldown, means you can actually top your health up relatively regularly. And if you can get to sort of a sustainable equilibrium with them, one of the sort of smaller fights, you can basically end the fight on almost full health. The rest of the stuff has all been damage focus. My epic damage doctrine, a little bit of extra health, which is always nice to have, but really I'm doing it for the 90 slashing damage. Piercing damage, blunt damage, obviously completely irrelevant in this case, just a nice to have. On top of that, Siege Fighter. This is essentially a breakthrough doctrine, but one of the newly released upgraded versions. Not only does it give that 115 point increase to damage, but you're also getting that 70 base damage increase, which is basically 70 base extra slashing damage. And finally, a little bit of extra slashing damage for 75. Be really nice. You could even get this to an epic slashing doctrine if you wanted to just add a little bit more. So yeah, it's a really high damaging unit, good AoE. When you can get them up against a chunk of enemies, they really are just so devastating. Obviously, they're a little bit cheaper to run at the moment because they're seasonal specific units, so you get that 15 leadership cost reduction. And it's also their unit kits are only about 4,000, so relatively cheap. As we sort of talked about, they're a big area effect, which makes them really effective. And they do also have this block and strike, so essentially when they're in their deadly epicycle, they can essentially block some incoming abilities. I don't know the percentages that they do get blocked, though, so it's kind of hard to say. And they are supposedly fireproof as well. Anyway, let's hop into some battles with them. Let's see what we can do and, see who we can slice in half with our epic Crescent Moons. So, we kick things off on a little bit of Docile Fort, on what is going to be quite a long match when we use this unit, but things are just at the start. We've not even got the siege towers in properly yet, just about to reach the walls. And I notice a couple of our team are fighting in the gateway. Kind of think, sod it, let's go and give it a go. We'll push in, see if we can kill sort of a few units on the ground, and we'll kind of go from there. You can see me kind of being a little bit hesitant, thinking, I don't know if I really want to do this. Anyway, come in 2 stacks of halberdiers in phalanx, basically sat on top of each other. It's quite a silly fight to take, really. Pushing right into the front, you see from the off we actually start to take some losses. But the healing comes in, we get the abilities in, and see how rapidly we just churn through this unit. 37 kills. Don't quite get the hero kill, but we really managed to munch through them quite effectively. Did cost us 2 of the unit though, so was it really worth it? We then ended up managing to get ourselves a little bit stuck in the gateway. As we try and get them all, just the assist. But anyway, we then go and open the gateway and get back to the supply point. A minute or 2 later, we've been out, got back to our own supply point, healed up the other 7 models in the unit, and are now re-continuing our push on A. So you can see how quickly they can take out units. Pushing into the front of 2 stacks of halberdiers, never really a great move, but it kind of shows actually how effective this unit can be. Anyway, pushing up onto the A point, a little bit of stuff kicking around. Initially some of these new tier 3 spearmen, which don't really last very long at all. Not really a problem for the team as we push in. Kind of think about having a little bit of a go for these Romans, but in reality they were already retreating, so unfortunately we don't get to manage to get any kills on them. But that means the teams managed to secure the A point without too much trouble, so we can actually get the unit in, get secured, and then we're obviously going to have to push out and push for that supply point. I always like to keep on top of the walls here. It's a map that I like to push from supply point to supply point. A couple of the team had pushed hard and have already got over and are starting to cap out the C point, which is kind of nice. We come down and the enemies put a choke point on the corner. Now, I don't really want to be the number 1 person in. This is a unit that I like to really X into the fight, push them in hard. Poor hero. And if you do that into the front of a bracing sort of unit, you can take quite a few losses before it kicks off. So wait for the friendly shields to go in, and then we can get in and do the damage. And yeah, we absolutely cut through this unit of stalwarts, really without any problem. The unit doesn't have necessarily the ability to hit through block, but it almost seems kind of like it does. So as you can see here, push into a unit of shields. I push the unit right in before I activate. Bang, and just look how quickly they eviscerate that unit of shields. It's like 30 kills instantly. It's just ridiculously powerful. As that takes us up to 80 kills already in this battle with this unit. And yeah, we've only still lost no more models. And you see what I mean when I say you almost come back full health by the end of it, because we really took very little damage from that, because you get a little bit of healing from that doctrine, and particularly if they go down low on health anyway, then they get a little bit of self-healing from it. So you can see how this unit can really start to dominate these fights. Once we've got the supply point secure though, I push down along the wall and down into the supply point next to the C point. The team didn't quite manage to get the cap on C, but it is pretty close. Anyway, a little bit of hero fighting initially on the supply point. I was kind of wondering to see if there's going to be cav coming in or a lot of sort of enemy response to try and stop us from capping this supply point, but actually they didn't really seem to come out all that much, which is fine for us because it means we can get the cap in, get quite a bit of the team coming down. I was kind of caught a little bit here. Do I want to push the C? We've got the bulk of the cap on it, but I do see there's some cav up there. And while this unit actually isn't that bad at dealing with cavalry because they can just sort of go into the spinning mode, I decided that the B point is probably going to suit this unit more. And as we'll see in a minute, this is where they really come to life, in these sort of close range, just big clump fights. I often talk about units that are better one-on-one. This is a unit that works fantastically in these big fights, because you just push them in, and you just basically start going ham. Look how quickly we start picking up kills. 110 kills, 120 kills, 130 kills, 140 kills, well, almost 140 kills. And you can just keep activating it. Oh, hero kill. And some more cav comes in. There goes 140 kills. And another hero kill. And they're just continually, I'm just continually activating the spinning ability. 150 kills. This is ridiculously powerful when this unit gets in the right situation. 160 kills. And they can just defeat absolutely everything. And there's nothing really the enemy in that sort of situation can do about it. And because the unit's fairly spread out in the area, there's a lot of friendly units which are blocking enemy attacks, I can just keep activating my Epicycle ability, and I'm continuously getting that sort of small amount of healing from the Doctrine and the cooldown from it, which just does so much damage. I end up swapping out the unit not long after this, but it kind of goes to show what you can do in one battle with this unit. A handful of hero kills and 160 unit kills. Of course, that match on Dessau 4 was a particularly good one. So how does a standard battle go? I find you still tend to do pretty well, even if you don't play them as a unit particularly well, because the damage is so high. So for example here, we've got some stalwarts in front of us. I go on with the damage buff from the glaive, just go straight to town, and we immediately pick up 20 or so kills. It shows just how much damage this unit can do. Stalwarts just don't really hold up all that well against it. Again, I'm always sure to try and push the unit into the fight. I don't like them to wait around on the edges. They're an AoE unit. Push them in. See, we can do hero kills super quickly, start building up some damage. You do take some losses, but when they're in their spinning ability, they're really hard for the enemy to hit. And my problem here is I just get a little bit too carried away with myself as a hero, and unfortunately, ultimately, end up getting myself killed. But the unit still manages to go on to grab another hero kill, gets us just shy of, just over 60 unit kills. And yeah, a lot of them are actually still alive, and we're still able to retreat them and use them later on in the battle. So, is the unit worth unlocking? I'd say, yeah. They're really quite nice. I find them quite easy to use. They're fairly one that you just sort of push into the fight and activate. You do have to be pretty aggressive with them. They're all about the damage, not really the survivability. The damage kind of is the survivability. You can easily pick up some really good kill numbers with them, so they really are quite fun. And you're not going to be having, enormous games every battle, but I find that you struggle to really go too far wrong, and you should at least be sort of picking up 30 kills with them, once you've got them nicely upgraded. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And of course, subscribe to the channel for lots more Conqueror's Blade content. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all on the next one.